August of 1935, I was standing by my brother's grave, dirt still fresh on my hands, when the knock came that changed everything. 3 days I'd been alone. 3 days of silence so thick it felt like drowning. The bank wanted the farm, the town wanted me gone, and my brother's last words, "She's coming, don't send her away," made about as much sense as rain in hell. Then she filled my doorway. 6 feet tall if she was an inch, shoulders broad as any man's, holding a rifle like she knew how to use it. Behind her stood a boy with a chalkboard, writing words that'd get us all killed. "Bad man coming." She looked me dead in the eye and said 4 words I'll never forget. "I'm your wife now." By dawn, we'd either be standing on our own land as a family, or we'd all be buried 6 feet under beside my brother. Reckon you want to know which one it was. The August heat made everything stick, dust to skin, shame to memory, silence to grief. I'd buried Isaac on Tuesday beneath the crooked oak behind the barn, and by Friday the whole county knew I was finished. Bank letters piled on the kitchen table. The stove stayed cold. I ate nothing but stale biscuits and well water for 3 days straight. Didn't matter, couldn't taste anything anyway. Friday afternoon, I rode into town for supplies I couldn't afford: flour, lamp oil, nails to fix the fence that was falling faster than I could mend it. Tied my horse outside Hutchins' general store and walked in with my head down, hoping nobody'd notice me. They noticed. Earl Hutchins stood behind the counter, arms crossed, jaw set. 3 other men loitered by the pickle barrel: Wayne Pruitt, Stuart Oakes, and another fella I didn't know. They all turned when I entered. "Silas," Earl said. Not friendly, not warm, just my name, flat as a tombstone. "Earl." I set my list on the counter. "Need these items." "Can you put it on credit till after harvest?" "No." The word hung in the air like a curse. "Earl, I've been buying from you for 15 years. And your brother owed me $43 when he died." Earl's face was stone. "You think I'm extending more credit to a Callahan? You're mistaken." Heat crawled up my neck. "I didn't know about Isaac's debts. Give me time, I'll make it right." "Time's what you ain't got." This from Stuart Oakes, Merrick's foreman. He stepped forward, smiling like a man who enjoyed other people's pain. "Word is, Merrick's taking your property in 2 weeks. That true?" I didn't answer. "Thought so." Stuart spat tobacco juice into a tin can. "Shame, really. Good land going to waste on a man who can't even keep his brother alive." My fists clenched. "You got something to say, Stuart. Say it plain." "I'm saying you're done, Callahan. Done in this town. Done farming. Done pretending you're worth a damn." He looked around at the others. "Everybody knows it. You're just too stubborn to admit it." The other men nodded, not with enthusiasm, just agreement, like Stuart had stated a simple fact. The sky is blue. Water is wet. Silas Callahan is finished. I should have walked out. Should have kept my mouth shut and my dignity intact. But grief makes a man reckless, and I'd been carrying so much of it I couldn't hold anymore. "Isaac died trying to save this farm," I said quietly. "Worked himself sick trying to pay debts he never should have owed in the first place. And now you're standing here mocking him 3 days after I buried him?" I stepped closer to Stuart. "You're a coward and a bully, and when this is done, I'll remember every word you said." Stuart's smile vanished. His hand moved toward his belt. Earl's voice cut through. "Not in my store, Stuart." Then outside. Stuart's eyes were cold. "Right now." I was tired, hungry, grieving. I had no business fighting anyone. But pride's a stubborn thing, and sometimes it's all a man's got left. "Fine," I said. We walked outside, the others following like it was a Sunday entertainment. Word spread fast. By the time we reached the street, a dozen people had gathered, women with shopping baskets, men from the feedlot, even old Beatrice Hatch, standing on her store porch with her arms crossed. Stuart cracked his knuckles. "You ready to learn some respect?" I was about to answer when the wagon rolled up. Not a farm wagon, something rougher, older, patched with boards that didn't match. And driving it was a woman bigger than any I'd seen, sitting tall with reins in one hand and a rifle across her lap. She stopped right between us, blocking Stuart's path. "This the Callahan farm?" she asked, voice low and certain. Everyone stared. "Who's asking?" Stuart said. She ignored him completely, looked straight at me. You Silas? I am. Good. She climbed down, 6 feet tall, shoulders like a ranch hand, hands scarred from work I couldn't imagine. Behind her in the wagon bed sat a small boy, thin and wide-eyed, clutching a chalkboard. The woman walked right up to me, close enough I could see the determination burning in her pale eyes. I'm Dorothy Helm, she said. Your brother sent for me. She paused, then said it loud enough for the whole street to hear. I'm your wife now. The silence that followed could have shattered glass. The whole street stood frozen, staring at Dorothy Helm like she'd announced the second coming. Stuart Oakes recovered first, barking out a laugh that had no humor in it. Your wife? That's rich, Callahan. You've been married all of 5 minutes and forgot to tell anybody. Dorothy didn't even glance at him, just kept her eyes on me, waiting. I could have denied it. Could have said she was confused, mistaken, that Isaac's letter had been misunderstood. But something in her face stopped me, not pleading, not desperation, just steady certainty, like she'd already decided this was true and was waiting for me to catch up. And behind her in that wagon sat a boy who looked terrified. That's right, I heard myself say. We married quiet-like. Private ceremony. The lie tasted like copper, but I said it anyway. Beatrice Hatch stepped forward from her porch, studying Dorothy with sharp eyes. When? 2 days ago, Dorothy said without missing a beat. Isaac arranged it before he passed. Wanted to make sure Silas wasn't alone. Mighty convenient, Stuart muttered. Mighty damn convenient. Convenient or not, it's legal, I said. Now if you'll excuse us, my wife and I got a farm to tend. I climbed onto the wagon seat beside Dorothy. She handed me the reins without a word, and we rolled out of town with 20 pairs of eyes burning holes in our backs. We didn't speak until we reached the farm. Dorothy climbed down, helped the boy after her, then stood in the yard looking at the sagging barn, the leaning fence, the house with its cracked windows and peeling paint. It needs work, I said. Everything does. She turned to me. You got a place for us to sleep? There's Isaac's room. I haven't touched it since. We'll take it. She hoisted her bag. Come on, Oz. The boy followed her inside like a shadow. I stood in the yard for a long moment, trying to understand what had just happened. Then I went inside to face whatever came next. Dorothy moved through the house like she was taking inventory of a shipwreck. Opened cupboards, checked the stove, ran her finger along the dusty windowsill. The boy, Oz, sat at the table with his chalkboard, watching everything with those two old eyes. You got cornmeal? She asked. Some? Lard? Little bit. Salt? Enough. She nodded, set to work. Within 20 minutes, she had Johnny cakes frying and weak coffee brewing. The smell filled the house, the first good smell in days, and my stomach clenched with hunger I'd been ignoring. We ate in silence. Oz ate slow, careful, like he'd learned not to waste food. Dorothy ate efficient, practical. I ate because my body demanded it, even though my mind was spinning with questions. Finally, I asked, Why'd you really come? She set down her fork. I told you, your brother saved my life. I owed him. Nobody rides 300 miles to pay a debt to a dead man. Her jaw tightened. Some people do. Oz's chalk scratched across his slate. He held it up. She was running from bad men. I was too. Uncle Isaac said we could hide here. Uncle Isaac. So the boy knew my brother somehow. What bad men? I asked. Dorothy's hand moved to cover the slate, but Oz had already started writing again. The man who killed my mama. The words hung in the air like a noose. His name's Clyde Merrick, Dorothy said quietly. The same man who's taking your farm. My blood went cold. Merrick killed the boy's mother? As good as... She worked in his house, got pregnant, he threw her out. When she died of consumption 2 weeks back, he decided the boy was a loose end. Dorothy's voice stayed flat, controlled. I was working the rail line when I met her. She made me promise to keep Oz safe. Then your brother's letter came, and I figured... She trailed off. You figured you could hide here. I figured we could help each other. She met my eyes. You need someone to work this farm, keep the bank from taking it. I need a place where Merrick can't reach us. Seemed like a fair trade. Until the whole town finds out you're not really my wife. Then we make it real. She said it's simple as discussing weather. Common law marriage, cohabitation, and public declaration. It's legal in Kansas. Elwood Tate said so himself in town. You don't even know me. I know you stood up when you didn't have to. I know you didn't send us away. Her voice softened just slightly. That's more than most men would do. Oz was watching us both, slate clutched tight, fear and hope warring on his small face. I should have said no, should have sent them packing before this got worse. But outside, the sun was setting, and in the distance, I heard it. The sound of horses, multiple horses, coming fast. Dorothy heard it too. Her hand moved to her rifle. They found us, she whispered. The riders crested the hill, 6 men, torches already lit even though darkness hadn't fallen. Stuart Oakes led them, and he wasn't smiling anymore. The torches painted everything orange and black, faces half lit, shadows dancing like demons across the dirt. Stuart Oakes sat tall in his saddle, flanked by 5 others: Wayne Pruitt, Earl Hutchins, 2 ranch hands I recognized from town, and a lean man in a duster I'd never seen before. They stopped at my fence line, forming a wall of horseflesh and firelight. "Evening, Silas," Stuart called out, voice carrying false friendliness. "We come to talk?" I stepped onto the porch, rifle held loose but visible. Dorothy moved beside me, her Winchester already in her hands. Behind us, through the window, I could see Oz's pale face watching. "Talk from there," I said. Stuart's smile thinned. "Now that ain't very hospitable, especially considering we just want to clear up some confusion about your wife." He said the word like it tasted bad. "No confusion. She's my wife. That's all you need to know." "See, that's where you're wrong." Earl Hutchins leaned forward in his saddle. "Because Mr. Merrick, he's been asking questions. And turns out this woman, Dorothy Helm, she's wanted kidnapping charges out of Hutchinson." My stomach dropped, but I kept my face stone. "That's a lie," Dorothy said, voice steady as bedrock. "Is it?" The stranger in the duster spoke now, pulling a paper from his coat. "I'm Deputy Marshal Crenshaw, out of Wichita. Got a warrant here for Dorothy Helm, wanted for abducting a minor child, one Oswin Hollis, age 9, deaf and mute, taken from his legal guardian Mr. Clyde Merrick without permission." "Oswin's mother gave him to me," Dorothy said. "On her deathbed. That makes it legal." "A dead woman's word against signed custody papers?" Crenshaw shook his head. "That don't hold up in any court I know." "Merrick killed that woman," I said. "Poisoned her because she knew too much." Stuart laughed, sharp, mocking. "You hear that, boys? Now we got murder accusations. Silas, you've lost your damn mind. Grief's made you crazy." "Or desperate," Wayne added. "Desperate enough to harbor a criminal and claim she's your wife just to avoid losing this pathetic piece of dirt you call a farm." The words hit like fists. Not because they were cruel, I'd heard worse, but because part of me wondered if they were right. If I had gone crazy, if I was throwing away what little I had left for strangers I'd known less than a day. Then Oz appeared in the doorway, small, fragile, clutching his chalkboard with white knuckles. He'd written something in large, shaky letters. "Please don't let them take me." The boy's face was pure terror, the kind that comes from knowing exactly what's waiting if you lose. Something in my chest hardened, turned to iron. "The boy stays," I said. "That ain't your decision," Crenshaw said, dismounting. "I got a legal warrant. Stand aside or you'll be arrested for obstruction." "Then arrest me." I raised the rifle, still not aimed, but higher. "Because I ain't moving." Dorothy's Winchester came up too. "Neither am I." The horses shifted, nervous. The men's hands drifted toward their guns. For a heartbeat, I thought this was it. Thought we'd all go down in fire and blood over a boy none of us had known a week ago. Then a voice cut through the tension like a church bell. "What in God's name is happening here?" Every head turned. Beatrice Hatch stood at the edge of my property, holding a lantern high. Behind her, Lord help me, stood 5 more women. Ruth Patterson, Mary Childress, Sarah Oakes, Stewart's own wife, and 2 others from the church auxiliary. Beatrice marched forward like she owned the ground beneath her feet. "Stewart Oakes, you planning on shooting a woman and child in front of witnesses?" Stewart's jaw worked. "This ain't your concern, Beatrice." "The hell it ain't." She planted herself between the riders and my porch. "I know Dorothy Helm. Worked with her on the Railroad Relief Committee last spring. She's no kidnapper. She's a damn saint who takes in strays nobody else wants." Beatrice turned to Crenshaw. "And I know Clyde Merrick, too. That man's got more skeletons in his closet than a medical school. Ma'am, I appreciate your opinion, but I have a warrant. From a judge who owes Merrick money." This from Ruth Patterson, stepping forward. "Judge Peterson. He's been in Merrick's pocket for years. Everybody knows it." Mary Childress nodded. "My husband works the courthouse. Says Peterson signs whatever Merrick wants." Crenshaw's face tightened. "That's a serious accusation." "Then investigate it," Beatrice said. "But you ain't taking that boy tonight. Not without a hearing. Not without proper representation." She looked at me. "Silas has the right to contest custody, don't he?" Crenshaw hesitated. The law was clear, but so was the crowd gathering. More women arriving now, drawn by the commotion. Men, too, standing in the shadows watching. 24 hours, he finally said. "I'll get Judge Harrison from Topeka, the circuit judge. He'll hear the case proper. But if he rules against you, the boy goes to Merrick. Understood?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Stewart spat in the dirt. "This ain't over." "No," Beatrice said coldly. "It ain't. Sarah, take your husband home before he does something stupid." Sarah Oakes, quiet, small Sarah, looked at her husband with something close to disgust. "Come on, Stewart. You've embarrassed me enough for one night." The riders left slowly, reluctantly, torches fading into darkness. When they were gone, Beatrice turned to us. "You got one day to build a case. I suggest you use it wisely." We didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Dorothy sat at the kitchen table cleaning her rifle, methodical and silent. I paced the floor, mind racing through possibilities, each one darker than the last. Oz curled in Isaac's old chair by the cold stove, slate clutched to his chest, eyes following every sound. Beatrice had promised to return at first light with whatever help she could muster. "Get your story straight," she'd said before leaving. "Judge Harrison's fair, but he's also careful. He won't rule on emotion. He'll want facts, witnesses, proof." Proof we didn't have. Just a dead woman's word filtered through a frightened boy and a stranger who'd appeared out of nowhere claiming to be my wife. Around midnight, Dorothy finally spoke. "You don't have to do this." I stopped pacing. "Do what?" "Fight for us. Risk everything." She didn't look up from the rifle. "Merrick's powerful. He'll crush you if you stand against him. Better to let us go. Save yourself." "I already told the whole town you're my wife." "You lied to protect us. That was kind. But you don't owe us your life." She set down the cleaning rod, met my eyes. "I've been run off from better places than this. I'm used to it. That don't make it right. Right don't put food on the table. Right don't keep a roof over your head." Her voice was flat, resigned. "I learned a long time ago that right is a luxury poor folks can't afford." Oz's chalk scratched across his slate. He held it up. "I don't want to go." The simple honesty of it, no manipulation, no pleading, just a child's terror, hit harder than any argument could. "You ain't going," I said. "Either of you." Dorothy's expression softened just slightly. "You're a fool, Silas Callahan." "Reckon I am." We sat in silence after that, listening to the night sounds, crickets, distant coyotes, wind through the broken barn boards, normal sounds, peaceful sounds. Then the dogs started barking. Not my dogs, I didn't have any, but the Hutchins farm a mile east, they had 3. And when all 3 started baying at once, urgent and afraid, it meant something was wrong. Dorothy was on her feet instantly, rifle in hand. "Put out the lamp." I did. Darkness swallowed the room. We moved to the windows, me at the front, Dorothy at the side. Oz stayed low, pressed against the wall, slate abandoned on the floor. For a long moment, nothing, just darkness and the dog's frantic warning. Then I saw it. A flicker of orange on the eastern ridge, then another, then three more, torches, moving toward us through the night like a procession of damned souls. "They're coming," Dorothy whispered. "How many?" "Can't tell. At least a dozen. More than we could handle, more than we could fight." I thought fast. "The root cellar, behind the barn. It's got a door that's damn near invisible if you don't know where to look." "You want us to hide?" "I want Oz safe. If they take me, if they burn this place—" My throat tightened. "At least he'll live." Dorothy's jaw clenched, but she nodded. She grabbed Oz, pulled him close, whispered instructions against his face so he could read her lips in the dark. The boy's eyes went wide with fear, but he nodded. She looked back at me. "What about you?" "I'm staying." "Somebody's got to face them." "That's suicide." "Maybe, but I ain't running, not from my own land." I checked my rifle's load. "Get him to the cellar. Wait till dawn. If I'm still alive, I'll come for you. If not—" I didn't finish. Dorothy crossed the room in 3 strides and gripped my shoulder, hard, fierce. "You're a damn fool," she said again. But this time it sounded different, almost like respect. Then she was gone, pulling Oz out the back door into darkness. I stood alone in my dead brother's house, watching the torches multiply on the ridge. 15 now, maybe 20. They weren't hiding anymore, weren't pretending this was about law or custody or proper procedure. This was something older, something meaner, a mob with torches and righteousness, coming to purge what they didn't understand. I walked onto the porch, rifle across my chest, and waited. They came down the hill in a loose formation, riders in front, walkers behind, all carrying fire. I recognized faces in the flickering light. Stuart Oakes leading, Wayne Pruitt beside him, Earl Hutchins hanging back but present. Others I knew from church, from town, from years of living among them. Neighbors, friends, once. Now just a mob. They stopped 50 feet out, torches held high, illuminating my small house, my sagging barn, my dead brother's grave under the oak. Stuart called out, "Last chance, Callahan. Send out the woman and the boy. Do it peaceful, and we let you keep the house." "And if I don't?" His smile was visible even in the torchlight. "Then we take what we came for, and we burn the rest." Behind him, someone threw a torch. It arced through the night like a falling star and landed on my barn roof. The dry wood caught instantly, flames spreading fast and hungry across the shingles. The barn burned like a funeral pyre, flames reaching toward the black sky, painting everything in hellish orange. I stood on the porch watching 20 years of work turn to ash and smoke, the heat so intense I could feel it from 50 yards away. The mob watched too, silent now, as if they hadn't quite expected the fire to catch so fast, so complete. Stuart Oakes broke the silence. "Still want to play hero, Callahan?" I didn't answer. Just watched the flames consume the structure where Isaac and I had stored every harvest, every tool, every hope we'd had for making something of this place. "Barn's gone," Stuart continued. "House is next, unless you send them out." I raised my rifle, not aiming, just raising it so they could see. The mob shifted, uncertain. They'd come for righteousness and found resistance instead. Fire was one thing. Shooting a man on his own porch was another. Then hoofbeats came from the west, fast, urgent. A rider materialized from the darkness, Beatrice Hatch, riding like she was half her age, a canvas bag bouncing against her saddle. Behind her rode 3 men I recognized from the county seat. She reined in hard between me and the mob, her horse dancing sideways. "Judge Harrison sent me ahead," she called out. "He's coming at first light for a proper hearing. Any man who interferes with his investigation will answer to territorial law." "This ain't territorial business," Stuart said. "This is local. A federal marshal filed a warrant. That makes it territorial." Beatrice pulled papers from her bag, held them high. "And I got a temporary injunction signed by Judge Harrison himself." Says nobody touches this property, that boy, or the Callahans, until he hears the case proper. She fixed Stewart with a look that could freeze hell. You disobey a circuit judge's order, Stewart Oakes. You'll be in a cell by sundown tomorrow. The mob wavered. Some started backing away, suddenly remembering they had farms to tend, families to face, explanations to make about why they'd been part of a midnight burning. Stewart held his ground longer, jaw working, torch still burning in his fist. Finally, he spat and said, "This ain't over." "Keep saying that," Beatrice replied. "Maybe one day you'll believe it." They left. Slowly, reluctantly, but they left. The barn kept burning. By dawn, only smoking timbers remained. Dorothy and Oz emerged from the root cellar, both covered in dirt, the boy's eyes red from crying, though he'd made no sound. Beatrice had stayed, along with Ruth Patterson and Mary Childress, the three women taking shifts to watch the road in case the mob returned. When the sun finally broke over the ridge, Judge Harrison arrived. A tall man with white hair and steel-gray eyes that missed nothing. He set up court in my kitchen. We told our story. All of it. Dorothy spoke of Martha Hollis, of working the rail line together, of the dying woman's plea. I explained about Isaac's letter, about Dorothy's arrival, about Merrick's claim on both the land and the boy. Oz wrote on his slate, words tumbling out fast. "Mama said bad man wants me gone, said he put medicine in her soup, said don't trust him ever." Harrison read every word twice. Then he asked, "Miss Helm, you have any proof of Martha Hollis's wishes?" Dorothy pulled a folded letter from her coat, worn, stained, but readable. She wrote this 3 days before she died, witnessed by the rail yard foreman in Hutchinson. Harrison read it, face impassive. The letter was simple, direct. "I, Martha Hollis, being of sound mind though failing body, hereby entrust my son Oswin to the care of Dorothy Helm. She is to raise him as her own. Clyde Merrick has no claim to this child, nor any right to him. This is my final wish. Signed, dated, witnessed." "This changes things," Harrison said quietly. He looked at me. "And you're willing to take responsibility for this child? Understand what that means?" "I do. It means you become his legal guardian. You feed him, clothe him, protect him. You answer for him before God and law." Dorothy's hand found mine under the table, the first time she'd touched me with anything like tenderness. Her fingers were rough, calloused, strong. They held on like she was drowning. "We'll answer for him," I said. "Both of us." Harrison nodded slowly. "Then by the authority vested in me by the territory of Kansas, I'm granting temporary custody to Silas and Dorothy Callahan, pending a full hearing in 30 days. He looked at Oz. "Son, do you understand? These people will be responsible for you now." Oz's chalk moved fast. "They already are. They saved me." For the first time, Harrison smiled, just barely. "So they did." He stood, gathering his papers. "Now, about Mr. Merrick's land claim. I'll need to see those documents." The door burst open. Sheriff Hadley stood there, face pale, breathing hard. "Judge, we got a problem. Clyde Merrick's filed charges. Says Silas Callahan and Dorothy Helm broke into his office last night. Says they stole property deeds." He looked at me with something like sorrow. "Says he's got witnesses and evidence. He wants them arrested immediately." Dorothy's hand tightened on mine. "That's impossible," I said. "We were here all night. He's got 2 witnesses who say otherwise, and he's got broken locks on his office door to prove it." Hadley's voice dropped. "I'm sorry, Silas. I got to take you in." They put us in separate cells, me on one side of the jailhouse, Dorothy on the other. Through the bars, I could see her pacing like a caged wolf, furious and calculating. Oz had been left with Beatrice, thank God, but the look on that boy's face as they took us away would haunt me till I died. Judge Harrison had protested, said the charges were suspicious, demanded time to investigate, but Merrick had 2 witnesses swearing they'd seen us at his office window past midnight, had photographs of broken locks, had a missing land deed that he claimed we'd stolen. All lies. But lies wrapped in enough truth to stick. Sheriff Hadley had looked miserable doing it, but he'd done it anyway. "I'm sorry, Silas," he'd said while clicking the cuffs. I got no choice. Seemed like nobody had choices anymore, just circumstances that pushed us all toward the cliff. I sat on the hard cot, head in my hands, trying to figure a way out. Couldn't see one. Merrick had been thorough. He'd built a cage made of law and witnesses and forged evidence, and we'd walked right into it. Hours passed. The sun climbed high, then started its descent. Nobody came except Hadley, bringing water and stale bread we barely touched. Then, just as evening shadows stretched across the cell floor, the door opened. Elwood Tate stumbled in. I looked up, expecting nothing, just another drunk coming to sleep off his latest bender. But Elwood walked past the cells, steady as I'd seen him in years, and stopped at Hadley's desk. "Need to see the prisoners," he said. "You're drunk, Elwood." "I'll go home. I'm sober, and I'm here as legal counsel." He pulled papers from his coat, wrinkled but official-looking. "Common law says any citizen can provide counsel if the defendant requests it. Silas, you requesting?" I stood, gripped the bars. "What are you doing?" "My job, for the first time in 5 years." His eyes were bloodshot but clear, focused in a way I hadn't seen since before his family died. "You requesting my counsel or not?" "Yes." Hadley sighed. "Fine, 10 minutes." Elwood pulled a chair close to my cell, sat heavy, and spoke low. "I did it." "Did what?" "Forged the promissory note. 3 months ago. Merrick paid me $100, more money than I'd seen in years. Said he needed a legal document for business purposes. I was drunk, desperate, and I did it." His hands shook. "Didn't know he'd use it to steal your land. Didn't know about the boy, about any of this. But I did it, and now you're paying for my sin." Rage and despair warred in my chest. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can fix it." He leaned closer. "The real deed, your father's original deed, clean and legal, it's in Merrick's safe. I know, because I helped him catalog his papers 2 years back, before I fell apart completely. I know the combination. I know where everything is." "That doesn't help us. We're in jail for supposedly breaking into that office." "But you didn't actually break in." Elwood's cracked smile held no humor. "I did. Last night, while the mob was burning your barn. I went to Merrick's office, opened his safe with the combination I still remembered, and took photographs of every dirty document in there, including his private ledger showing payments to Judge Peterson, to Stuart Oakes, to half a dozen others." He pulled a thick envelope from inside his coat, passed it through the bars. Inside, photographs, dozens of them. Clear images of documents in Merrick's handwriting, payoffs, threats, the practice sheets where he'd forged Isaac's signature, letters arranging Martha Hollis's death. "Jesus," I whispered. "I broke those locks myself to make it look like a robbery. Figured if Merrick thought someone was onto him, he'd get scared, make mistakes." Elwood's voice cracked. "Didn't count on him framing you for it. Should have known he'd be smarter than that." Dorothy had moved to the bars of her cell, listening. "Why help us now?" Elwood looked at her, eyes wet. "My daughter would have been 11 this year, same age as that boy you're protecting." He swallowed hard. "She died in a fire I was too drunk to notice starting. I couldn't save her. But maybe," his voice broke, "maybe I can save one child. Maybe that counts for something." "It counts," Dorothy said quietly. "These photographs," I said, thumbing through them, "they prove everything. The forgery, the conspiracy, the murder plot, they prove Merrick's guilty as sin." Elwood stood. "Judge Harrison arrives tomorrow morning for the custody hearing. You show him these, everything changes. Merrick goes to prison. You keep your land. The boy stays with you. But the burglary charges, I'll confess. Say I did it alone. You had nothing to do with it. I'm already at the bottom, Silas. Can't fall much further. But you got a chance, a family, a future." He moved toward the door, then stopped. "I spent 5 years drowning in guilt and whiskey. Maybe doing one decent thing can pull me back up. Or maybe I'm damned either way. But at least I'll go down knowing I tried." "Elwood." "Sheriff," he called. "I'm ready to make a statement about the break-in at Merrick's office last night." Hadley appeared, confused. "What?" I did it. I broke in, took photographs, destroyed the locks. Silas and Dorothy had nothing to do with it. I'm confessing. The silence that followed was absolute. Then the front door slammed open and Merrick himself strode in, face purple with rage, two hired guns behind him. Don't you dare take that confession, he snarled at Hadley. That drunk's lying to protect them. Elwood smiled, bitter, broken, but genuine. Prove it. Merrick's entrance sucked the air from the room. He moved like a man who owned everything, the building, the law, the very ground we stood on. His two hired guns flanked him, hands resting easy on their gun belts, eyes flat and professional. Sheriff Hadley, Merrick said, voice smooth as oil. I'm here to ensure justice is served. This drunk, he jabbed a finger at Elwood, is obviously lying to protect his friends. I want him arrested for making false statements and obstruction of justice. Hadley looked between Merrick and Elwood, trapped. Sir, if he's confessing to a crime, he's confessing to nothing. He was passed out in the saloon last night. I have witnesses. Merrick smiled, cold and certain. 3 men saw him drinking until past 2 in the morning. He couldn't have broken into my office because he was unconscious in his own vomit. Elwood's face went pale. That's not. Barkeep will testify. So will 2 customers. Merrick turned to me. Face it, Callahan. You broke into my office, you stole documents, and now you're going to prison for it. 20 years, I'd wager. Maybe more. Show him the photographs, Dorothy said from her cell, voice hard as stone. I hesitated. Showing Merrick what we had might be playing our only card too early, but we were already in the hole. Might as well see if truth could dig us out. I pulled the envelope through the bars, held it up. Elwood took photographs of everything in your safe, including your private ledger showing payments to Judge Peterson, payments to Stuart Oakes. Letters arranging Martha Hollis's death. Merrick's face didn't change. More forgeries, more desperate lies. They're dated, witnessed by the camera's timestamp. Elwood used one of those new Kodak cameras with automatic dating. I met his eyes. They'll hold up in any court. For the first time, something flickered in Merrick's expression. Not fear, not yet, but calculation. His mind working through possibilities, angles, ways out. Even if those photographs were real, he said slowly, they were obtained illegally, stolen from my private property. No judge would admit them as evidence. Judge Harrison might, Hadley said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. The sheriff stood straighter, something hardening in his face. I've turned a blind eye to a lot of things, Mr. Merrick. Told myself it wasn't my business, that I was just following the law. But if those photographs show what Silas says they show, he swallowed hard, then I've been helping a murderer. And I won't do it anymore? Merrick's smile vanished. You're making a mistake, Sheriff. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Hadley moved to my cell, pulled out his keys. I'm releasing them, pending Judge Harrison's review tomorrow morning. You don't have the authority. I'm the sheriff. I got all the authority I need. The cell door swung open. Then Dorothy's. Go on. Get out of here before I change my mind. We didn't need to be told twice. But as we reached the door, Merrick's voice stopped us. You think this is over? You think one corrupt sheriff and some photographs change anything? His face twisted with rage and something else, desperation. I own this town. I own the judge. I own the bank that holds your mortgage. By this time tomorrow, you'll have nothing. The boy will be mine, and you'll both be begging for the mercy of a prison cell. Dorothy turned, stepped close to him, close enough he had to look up to meet her eyes. You're afraid, she said quietly. I can smell it on you. You've spent your whole life crushing people smaller than you, buying your way out of consequences. But now you're cornered, and you don't know what to do except threaten. She smiled, cold and fierce. We ain't afraid of you anymore, Merrick. And that scares you more than anything. His hand moved toward his gun. One of his hired men grabbed his wrist. Not worth it, boss, not with witnesses. Merrick jerked free, breathing hard. Tomorrow, Judge Harrison's hearing, 9 o'clock. We'll see who's scared then. He stormed out, his men following. In the silence that followed, Elwood sagged against the wall. I'm sorry. About the witnesses. He's right. I was drinking last night. Can't prove I wasn't. Don't matter, I said. You gave us the photographs. That's what counts. Will they be enough? Nobody answered. Because none of us knew. We spent that night at Beatrice's house, all of us crammed into her small parlor. Oz slept on the couch, finally peaceful after 3 days of terror. Dorothy sat by the window, watching the dark. I paced, unable to settle. Around midnight, Beatrice made coffee, strong and bitter. You should try to sleep, she said. Can't. None of us can. She poured 3 cups. But come dawn, you'll need your strength. Judge Harrison's a fair man, but he's also cautious. He won't rule on emotion, he'll rule on law. And the law, she trailed off. The law's been bought, Dorothy finished. Some of it, not all. Beatrice sat, cradling her cup. There's old law, too. Traditions that go back before statehood. Common law marriage is one. Parental rights based on care and protection, not just blood, that's another. And there's something called equity jurisdiction. When the letter of the law would create injustice, a judge can rule based on what's fair instead. You think Harrison will do that? I asked. I think he'll try, if we give him reason to. She looked at Oz, sleeping peaceful for the first time in days. That boy's been through hell. Any judge with eyes can see he's safe with you, terrified of Merrick. That matters. The law's supposed to protect children, not deliver them to monsters. Dorothy's voice was soft. And if it doesn't? Beatrice met her eyes. Then we run, all of us. Canada's not so far. And I hear they're more welcoming to folks who don't fit the mold. The idea hung in the air. Exile, starting over, becoming fugitives for the sake of one small boy who couldn't even hear the promises we were making. Let's see what morning brings, I said finally, before we decide to burn our whole lives down. But in my gut, I already knew. If the law failed us, we'd run. All of us together, because some things were worth more than land, more than reputation, more than the life you'd built. Sometimes a child's safety was worth everything. Morning came cold and clear, the kind of dawn that feels like judgment. All hard light and no mercy. Judge Harrison convened court in the town hall at 9 sharp. Every seat was filled, people standing 3 deep along the walls. I'd never seen so many folks gathered for anything short of a hanging. We sat at the front, me, Dorothy, and Oz between us. Beatrice, Ruth, and Mary sat directly behind, a wall of determined women. Elwood sat apart, hands shaking slightly, but sober and upright. Merrick entered with his lawyers, dressed like he was attending a funeral. His own, as it turned out. Harrison called the court to order with 3 sharp raps of his gavel. We're here to determine custody of the minor child Oswin Hollis and to address charges of burglary against Silas and Dorothy Callahan. He looked at us over his spectacles. Let's start with the burglary charges. Sheriff Hadley, what's your assessment? Hadley stood, uncomfortable in his pressed uniform. Your Honor, after reviewing the evidence, I believe the charges are without merit. The alleged victims, Mr. Merrick, has provided inconsistent statements, and new evidence has come to light that calls his credibility into question. What evidence? I stood, held up the envelope. Photographs, Your Honor, taken from Mr. Merrick's private safe. They show a pattern of corruption, bribery, and conspiracy to commit murder. The courtroom erupted. Harrison's gavel came down like thunder. Order! I will have order. When silence returned, he gestured. Approach. I brought the photographs forward. Harrison examined each one slowly, methodically, his face growing darker with every image. The forged signatures, the payment ledgers, the letters to Dr. Brennan arranging Martha Hollis's death. Finally, he set them down. How were these obtained? Illegally. Merrick's lawyer jumped in. Stolen from private property. Inadmissible, Your Honor. Perhaps, but highly informative. Harrison looked at Merrick. Care to explain these documents? Forgeries, obviously created by the defendants to... These are photographs of documents in your handwriting, on your letterhead, in your safe. Harrison's voice cut like a blade. Are you claiming someone broke into your office, forged dozens of incriminating documents, photographed them, then broke in again to plant them in your safe? Merrick's jaw worked. I'm claiming these people are desperate criminals who— Your Honor, a voice called from the back. Every head turned. Stuart Oakes stood, hat in hands, face pale as death. His wife Sarah sat beside him, jaw set firm. Your Honor, I need to speak. Harrison nodded. Come forward. Stuart walked down the aisle like a man heading to the gallows. When he reached the front, he couldn't meet anyone's eyes. I've been working for Mr. Merrick for 8 years, he said quietly, following orders, doing things I knew weren't right, but told myself was just business. He swallowed hard. 3 weeks ago, he paid me $50 to arrange an accident for a woman named Martha Hollis. Said she was blackmailing him, needed to be silenced. I gave her poisoned medicine. Told her it was for her cough. The silence was absolute. Dorothy's hand found mine, gripping so hard I felt bones grind. Stuart continued, voice breaking. She died 2 days later. I told myself it was consumption, that she was dying anyway, that it didn't matter. But it did matter. It mattered. He looked at Oz, tears streaming. I'm sorry, boy. I killed your mama. And I got to live with that until I die. Merrick shot to his feet. He's lying. The man's obviously been threatened or— I have proof. Stuart pulled papers from his coat. Receipts for the poison, letters from Merrick with instructions, payment records. He handed them to Harrison. I kept everything. Insurance, I told myself. But really, I think I knew one day I'd have to answer for what I'd done. Sarah Oakes stood. I made him come forward, told him I wouldn't live with a murderer, wouldn't let my children be raised by one. He could confess or he could lose everything. Her voice was steel. He chose right. Finally. Harrison examined the papers, face grim. Then he looked at Merrick. Clyde Merrick, I'm placing you under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, bribery of public officials, fraud, and attempted murder of a minor bailiff. 2 deputies moved forward. Merrick backed away, face purple with rage. You can't do this. I have connections. I have power. I'll have your position, Harrison. You'll be silent. Harrison's voice could have frozen fire. Or I'll add contempt of court to your charges. They cuffed him, led him away. As he passed our table, he locked eyes with me one last time. This isn't over, he hissed. Yeah, I said quietly. It is. When he was gone, Harrison turned to Oz. Son, come here. The boy stood, slate in hand, walked to the judge's bench on shaking legs. Harrison spoke slowly, clearly, so Oz could read his lips. Your mother wanted you to be safe, wanted you to be with people who would love and protect you. Do you feel safe with Silas and Dorothy? Oz's chalk moved fast. Yes. Do you want to stay with them? Yes, please. Then by the authority vested in me by the territory of Kansas, I hereby grant full legal custody of Oswin Hollis to Silas and Dorothy Callahan. He smiled, gentle, warm. Welcome to your family, son. Oz turned, ran to us. Dorothy caught him, held him tight, tears streaming down her face. I wrapped my arms around them both. The courtroom erupted in applause. But even as people cheered, even as Beatrice whooped and Ruth cried and Elwood smiled his broken smile, I felt a chill. Because Judge Peterson, Merrick's bought judge, had slipped out during the confession. And something told me he wasn't running away. He was running to tell someone what had just happened, someone who wouldn't take this lying down. We walked out of that courthouse into sunlight that felt like baptism, clean, new, burning away the darkness of the past weeks. Oz held both our hands, swinging between us, the first real smile I'd seen on his face, lighting him up like a lantern. People gathered around, Beatrice crushing us in fierce hugs, Ruth crying openly, Mary squeezing Dorothy's arm with quiet solidarity. Even men who'd ridden with the mob stood at a distance, hats in hands, shame written across their faces. Earl Hutchins approached, cleared his throat. Silas, about that credit I denied you. Forget it, Earl. No, I can't. I was wrong. Wrong about a lot of things. He extended his hand. Your account's good with me. Always will be. I shook it, felt old anger dissolving into something softer, not quite forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of it. We were halfway to the wagon when Elwood caught up to us, moving slow, deliberate. He looked at Dorothy, then at me. "I'm leaving," he said simply. "Heading west. Figure it's time to start over somewhere that don't know my name or my failures." "You don't have to run," Dorothy said. "What you did today, confessing, bringing the truth forward, that took more courage than most men ever show." "Maybe. But I still killed my family through neglect. Still forged that document for money. Still spent 5 years drowning instead of living." He managed a weak smile. "Some things you can't come back from. You just gotta walk away and hope the next place gives you a chance to be someone better." "Where will you go?" I asked. "California, maybe. Oregon. Somewhere with trees and rain and no memories." He pulled an envelope from his coat, pressed it into my hand. "This is the deed. The real one. Your father's original, clean and legal. I took it from Merrick's safe before everything went to hell. It's yours. Always was." I opened it, saw my father's signature, strong, clear, undeniable. Proof that this land belonged to us, free and clear, no matter what lies Merrick had built. "Thank you," I said, throat tight. "Don't thank me. Just raise that boy right. Give him the life I couldn't give my daughter." Elwood's voice cracked. "That'll be thanks enough." He turned to leave and Dorothy called after him. "Elwood!" He stopped. "You're not damned. You're just human. And humans get second chances if they're brave enough to take them." He nodded once, didn't trust himself to speak, and walked away into the rest of his life. We made it halfway home before we saw the smoke. Not from our property, from the direction of Merrick's estate, 3 miles east. Thick, black smoke rising like a funeral pyre against the clean blue sky. Dorothy reined in the horses. "What the hell?" A rider came galloping up the road, one of the deputies from Harrison's court. He pulled up hard, breathing heavy. "Thought you should know," he said. "Merrick's house. It's burning." "How?" I asked. "Don't know for certain, but Judge Peterson was seen riding out there about an hour ago. And now Peterson's dead, shot once in the chest, lying in Merrick's study. Merrick himself is missing." Dorothy and I exchanged looks. "He ran," she said. The deputy nodded. "Looks like took money from his safe, a horse, supplies. Left Peterson dead and the house burning to cover his tracks." He spat. "Coward to the end." "You going after him?" "U.S. Marshal's already on it. Man like Merrick, with murder charges hanging over him, he won't get far." The deputy tipped his hat. "Just thought you'd want to know it's over. Really over this time." He rode off. We sat in the wagon, watching the distant smoke, feeling the weight of it all finally lifting. "You think they'll catch him?" Dorothy asked. "Don't know. Don't much care." I looked at Oz, who was watching the smoke with wide eyes. "He's gone. We're here. That's what matters." We drove the rest of the way home in silence. The burned barn looked smaller in daylight, just charred timbers and ash, already growing cold. But the house still stood. The land still stretched out around us, 8 acres of stubborn Kansas dirt that had survived drought, depression, death, and fire. We stood in the yard, me, Dorothy, and Oz, looking at what remained and what could be rebuilt. "We'll need a new barn," I said. "We'll build one," Dorothy replied, "and fences, and a proper root cellar, and—" She turned to me, and for the first time since we'd met, she smiled. Really smiled. Open and genuine. "We've got time," she said. "We've got land. We've got each other." She looked down at Oz. "We've got family." Oz pulled out his slate, wrote fast, "Can I plant something by Uncle Isaac's grave?" "What do you want to plant?" I asked. "Flowers." "So he's not lonely." Dorothy's eyes glistened. "I think that's perfect, sweetheart." We walked to the oak tree together, the three of us, and stood looking at the simple wooden cross I'd hammered together 3 weeks ago. Felt like a lifetime. "He'd be glad you're here," I said to Dorothy. "Both of you." This is what he wanted. "To trap you with a wife and kid you never asked for?" She raised an eyebrow. "To give me a family when I thought I'd lost everything." I took her hand. Calloused, strong, real. Thank you for knocking on my door, for staying, for fighting. She squeezed back. Thank you for opening it. Oz wrote on his slate. Are we going to be okay? I knelt beside him, looked him in the eyes. Yeah, son. We're going to be just fine. And standing there in the morning light, beside my brother's grave, and the woman who'd become my wife and the boy who'd become my son, I believed it. Not because the danger was gone. Merrick might still be out there somewhere, and there'd be other threats, other struggles, other seasons of hardship. But because we'd stopped running, we'd stood our ground, we'd chosen each other. And in the end, that's what family was. Not blood or law or obligation, but the choice to stand together when everything else fell apart. The sun climbed higher, warming the earth. Dorothy began clearing debris from where the barn had stood. Oz found a stick and started digging holes for seeds, and I picked up a hammer and started building. You know, I've been thinking about that summer a lot lately, nearly 40 years gone now, and some mornings I wake up and can still smell the smoke from that burning barn, still feel the weight of not knowing if we'd make it through. Dorothy's still here, 78 years old and ornery as ever, still taller than most men half her age, still won't back down from a fight worth having. We did marry proper, eventually, real ceremony with Beatrice standing witness and half the county watching. Turns out when you tell the same lie long enough with your whole heart, it stops being a lie and becomes the truest thing you ever said. Oz grew up strong, learned to read lips better than most folks read books, became a teacher for deaf children over in Topeka, got married, had 3 kids of his own. Still comes back every Sunday for dinner, still writes on that old slate sometimes when words feel too heavy for speaking. The farm's still ours. We rebuilt that barn twice over the years, drought, tornado, time, but the land stays. The oak tree where Isaac's buried has gotten so big now you can see it from the road, covered every spring with the flowers Oz planted 40 years ago, still blooming faithful as sunrise. I learned something that August in 1935, something I want you to hear. Family ain't about blood. It's about who stands with you when the torches come, who holds your hand in the dark, who fights for you when you can't fight for yourself. And dignity, real dignity, that ain't something that can be bought or sold or stolen. It's what you got left when everything else is taken. It's standing on your own porch and saying no when the whole world's saying yes. It's opening your door to strangers and calling them family. If you've ever felt like you don't fit, like you're too different, too broken, too much, or not enough, I want you to know something. Somewhere out there is a door waiting for you to knock. Somewhere is a porch light burning. Somewhere is a family you haven't met yet, but they're waiting. You just gotta be brave enough to knock. This story touched something in you, I hope. If it did, I'd love to hear where you're listening from. What part spoke to you? What memories it stirred up? Drop a comment. Let me know your story. Until next time, may you find family where you least expect it. May you stand when others sit down, and may you always, always leave the porch light burning for those who need a home. This is Silas Callahan signing off. God bless and thank you for listening.